Welcome back to another episode of Spirit of an Athlete. I'm your host, Amanda Smith, creator of the Gutsy Chick Quiz at gutsychickquiz.com. It's a fun quiz for female athletes who have a mysterious health condition that's holding them back. In this quiz, you will find out what your athletic self might be helping or holding you back from healing that mysterious health condition. On this episode of Spirit of an Athlete, I had Aimee Gallo, who is a double-degreed nutritionist with 20 plus years of experience. We dove deep into what it is that is holding people back from eating healthy, as well as how to feed yourself as an endurance athlete, because Aimee is an endurance athlete. She loves to run. And we talk about nutrition density. Listen into this episode to find out more. Aimee Gallo, thank you for being on Spirit of an Athlete with me. Okay.
I'm so excited. This is going to be...
I'm so excited too. Our pre-interview was so much fun. And now like the warm-up for this, I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be good.
It's going to be great.
Okay. You said something that I've already referenced in other episodes about wanting your own Teen Beat magazine for Gen Xers.
Yes.
What or who would you have in your version of this magazine?
So we all grew up with these, right? You know, you open it up immediately. Like, I would get them for the posters inside. Did I read the articles? No, I was there for the visuals.
Yes.
So
Jonathan Taylor Thomas, FTW.
Oh my gosh. There's a flashback.
Mm-hmm.
I want to open my, Gen X Teen Beat magazine, and in the middle of it, see a picture of, for me, Ernestine Shepherd. And for people who don't know who Ernestine Shepherd is, she's freaking amazing. So she's a woman who started her athletic career in her 60s. She has, right? This is not even, all the conversations now are about hurry up and get fit before menopause, because then you're going to turn into like a fragile, a fragile pile of goo in a nursing home. But she started post menopause, and she's like this crazy ass bodybuilder, and she also runs, and she's a beast. I'm not saying like she looks like a beefy dude, but she's a freaking beast. And this is who I want in my 40s. This is who I want on my wall in my bedroom. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aspirations. I mean,
that's right.
I mean, when we were kids, it was, ooh, I want to date this one or that one, or I want to sing like this one or that one. Right. And now here we are in our 40s going, I want to be like her when I grow up.
That's right. I find like if I'm evolving. I am slowly evolving into this mashup of Iris Apfel and Ernestine Shepherd.
Okay, explain. Go deeper on that one, please. You've explained who Ernestine is.
Yes.
Who's the other person?
Iris Apfel just passed away. I want to say within the last year. She passed away at, I want to say 101. Oh. And she was a fashion icon in New York for probably the last 60 years or so. If you've ever seen a picture of a lady with short, spiky white hair, big owl black glasses, and crazy ass chunky necklaces, right? Yep. That's Iris Apfel. So my fashion is Iris Apfel. My physique is Ernestine Shepherd. And I'm just like the crazy lady they don't know what to think of. That's my goal. That's hashtag life goals.
Okay, now you've met Aimee. Oh my gosh, I love this. I am so here for this. I like my Teen Beat magazine would definitely have some of the women that I'm seeing in powerlifting who are in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, still going strong. And what I love about both of these are that the people that you've picked, the fashion icon, I know exactly who you're talking about. I didn't realize she passed, and I didn't realize she was 101.
Yeah.
Holy crap. But they embraced both and I'm speaking to the athletes here because I don't know about the fashion icon, but they embraced both strength and endurance. They were doing both. And I feel like what we're studying finally and what we're discovering for female athletes or women, period, general statement that are either in menopause or past menopause is that those two things are required.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course there's the nutrition piece. Yeah.
That's what everything is made out of.
Right.
You
Right.
can't be strong and you can't go the distance if you don't feed yourself well.
Yeah.
And
And I
that's
mean,
why we're not strong and we're not going the distance, right? As a population is because, I mean, the bulk of our calories are crap.
all right. So the bulk of our calories are crap because
Oh, honey, where do I begin? Because as a culture, we have focused so heavily on productivity because we were told to, because that's the metric for success, because in some cases it's the only choice we have. And we many of us don't know how to cook anymore, and there's a perception that it takes forever, and I'm not Martha Stewart,
Martha
I'm not.
Stewart.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I can't do that, I don't have time to that for that.
Mhm.
um, and that it doesn't taste good when you do it because you don't have experience doing it, right?
It's a skill to build.
It is a skill to build. And then because we have this value of productivity at all costs and also the more bang for your buck, and our food system is set up so that the most bang for your buck you get are these extremely processed manufactured foods that are cleverly designed to keep you hooked and going back for more, right? And I'm not, it
Mhm.
sounds conspiracy theory, it sounds inflammatory, it sounds
But it's
hyperbolic,
true.
but it's true. RJ Reynolds, the cigarette company, purchased Nestle or Nabisco
Nabisco.
in the
Yeah.
80s, right? This is not like, it's not a joke. They kept their scientists on, their marketing folks on, their lawyers, their legal team on, and used the successful business plan that worked so well for tobacco
It
and
worked.
turned it over to food because you
Uh,
can't outlaw food.
Right? Well, okay, so we had this huge shift when it came to cigarettes, tobacco, all of that.
Right.
Uh in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s was when it really started to take off, and it's really grabbed hold in the last 24 years. We've finally seen that there's a reduction in how many people are smoking vapes have become more popular,
Yeah.
but less people smoking an actual cigarette, and more people thinking that they can control the substances that go into what they're smoking, even though I could talk for days about vape pens and the engineering behind those. Uh, don't do it. Just don't do it. So, are we going to see the same kind of thing when it comes to the food? Do you feel like we're going to trend in that direction? Because more people are waking up to the fact
It's
that
true.
the food is addictive and
Mhm.
it's designed to be addictive, and that's how they get us to buy their product over and over and over again.
Right. Well, there's finally, really in the last, well, that's probably less than 5 years, there's more research coming out showing that when you take the metrics that we use to assign addiction, qualities of addiction with illicit substances, and you apply those, assessments to processed food, the same percentages of those asked show up having a very high addictive response to food. So
Mm,
if, and I'm this, don't quote me on this number, but let's say
yeah.
10% of the population has a tendency toward alcoholism or other drug abuse, you will see approximately that same percentage of the population show up with this addictive tendency towards processed food as well. What I see in private practice is that individuals that I work with that struggle the most with what we colloquially call carbohydrate addiction, or sugar cravings that are very difficult to control. If
Mhm.
they do not have a personal history of substance abuse, it's in their family, very close in their family. They have a
Yeah.
parent or an uncle or someone who has struggled with substance abuse. And for some of these people, their response to something like pasta or ice cream or candy is virtually the same. And they feel like, I can't just have a bite of this because then either it's the slippery slope, which is
Yep.
also common in addicts, or it's there is no single serving size in a gallon of ice cream. A gallon is the serving, right? And then they're obsessing about it for days or even weeks afterwards. So I think I've come to my sort of armchair nutritionist hypothesis that there's a common thread that links the two, and that for some people there are certain foods which they have to treat as though it's an illicit substance, that
Mm.
they can't that they can't consume in moderation,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
I, the term that I like to use when it comes to addiction is you don't have an off switch for a certain thing. There is a chemical imbalance that says, I I don't see the connection in and this is my electrical engineer brain going, the circuit doesn't complete. Right? That's the
Right.
on off switch. Uh I feel like that's the key factor when it comes to it, but it's realizing, recognizing that that's what's going on,
Right.
or having someone else point it out to you. Have some, and I feel like food is a delicate place,
Yes.
kind of like money. Money is a
Yes,
delicate thing to talk about with people. Religion can be a delicate thing to talk about with people.
absolutely.
Food addiction.
And I think some of that by pointing it out in that framework, I think for a lot of people it releases the the shame that they carry, because we still have a cultural belief that food is something that you can control if you just have enough willpower.
What?
And for some people, there are some foods where that is just not the case. And sometimes just to complicate it even further, sometimes it's actually the foods that we have a food intolerance to or food sensitivity to.
Yes, absolutely.
And I see that in my practice as well, right? Like if I have a new client and they're coming in and they're like, I'm willing to do just about anything, but don't take away my cheese. Firstly, I'm not your mom. I'm not taking anything away from you. But secondly, the more attached they are to something, the more I'm like,
It's an allergy.
that's interesting. I'm going to put a
Mhm.
pin on that, and we're going to revisit that at a later
Yeah.
time, but not today because you're going to freak out.
In my practice, the pin I put on that is allergy.
Yeah.
Your body is doing something to make it a point to notice it, notice it, notice it. Right. And it's the same coin, two different sides, addiction or allergy, when it becomes something that you're craving to the point that you cannot let it go.
It's an interesting perspective. I haven't looked at it that way before. I could see
Mm.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like to tackle it from the allergy side
Mhm.
first. Because if we tackle it from an allergy, everybody likes allergies. They're like, oh, I have to take a pill for that. Right? Or
Some of
some
them you can't.
medication.
Some of them
How
you
about we eliminate it and see what happens? And that's where all the mental stuff starts to spur in. And
Yes.
that's where I'll go, oh, okay, so this isn't an allergy. This is an addiction. Yeah. And then we have to tackle it from that mental side.
Right.
And then from both.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Because
watched
you've
this
been in it,
weekend.
the body is the mind is the body.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Deeply, deeply intertwined. And some people would like to compartmentalize, which is entertaining to watch.
It gives us the illusion of control, Amanda. We
It
like
does. It does.
control.
I can control this. No, you can't. Um, um, I watched someone this weekend who, very intelligent human being who has just eliminated sugar from her diet.
Mm.
And she came to a retreat and she was like, you know what? I'm going to try to be really good, but I'm going to give myself some graces. And I love Pareto's law, 80-20, right? Give yourself a little grace. And immediately the first thing that she had was this cacao drink that was amazing, burst your heart open, amazing. And she immediately, after she finished it, said, I want like 5 more.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, ooh, okay. You've just been off of sugar for 2 weeks. You
So
had
it was
date in
sweetened.
this. Yeah, completely off for 2 weeks. And she had date in the drink. It wasn't even like white refined processed sugar. It was a date. And she just wanted more. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh,
For some people, it is that like that as soon as that sweet taste hits the tongue, everything in the brain lights up and the body's like, more.
yeah, more, 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 more. I'll
Yeah.
switch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which she did. She did a great job of controlling it at that point. She was like, I recognize I want more and I'm going to turn that switch off. And I was
Exactly.
like,
Exactly.
it's still an allergy in your body.
Mhm.
Just stay off of it a little while longer. Eventually your taste buds will shift and you'll go, oh, yeah, that doesn't hit the same way that it did before. Because our taste buds will shift and change and they tend to shift fairly quickly. Do you know how long it takes for your taste buds to regenerate?
I actually don't know that. I observe in as little as 2 weeks, people starting to be like, "I'm craving vegetables now. What have you done to me?"
Wasn't me.
No, I was gonna say, you're just getting the nutrients that your body's been asking for, and it's asking for more now. Now that it knows where you can find them, it's telling you exactly where it wants you to get them. That's what's happening.
And you're
Not
paying
my voodoo
attention.
magic.
I waved my magic wand and presto, you love vegetables.
If only
Oh,
it were that easy.
right? Okay, so let's talk about fruits and vegetables
Mm,
and food and nutrient density is the buzzword. Nutrient density. Now, we're trying to get more people to eat simple foods.
yeah.
The fruits, the vegetables, the non-processed things. Get away from the middle of the grocery store, stay on the outside of the grocery store, right?
Yes.
What are we learning? And this is not to deter people from eating the fruits and the vegetables. That is still the best foods that we can get. But what are we learning about fruits and vegetables now compared to fruits and vegetables, say, 30 years ago?
Mm, so much has changed.
Right?
So much has changed. Yeah. There is, I don't know about 30 years ago, but I know when you look at the nutritional data that they took in the 1950s and you compare it to the nutritional data, and this is, I'm talking about, like the USDA taking the food and analyzing it for the nutrients it contains. We have significantly less minerals and fewer vitamins in our food now than we did when our grandparents were growing up. Significantly less. And this is for a number of reasons. One, our agricultural industry has been industrialized to the point where it's like you put 3 minerals of fertilizer on the soil. There's no crop rotation, there's no rest. We aren't having regenerative agriculture where animals are going in and pooping on the land and fertilizing it, right? So there's fewer minerals from our fertilizers replenishing the soil, and the soil itself is not getting the rest.
Okay.
We live in a world that wants, everything to look a little pristine. And so we don't let the leaves that fall from the trees stay there and nourish the soil and contribute to topsoil. So we have this topsoil erosion. So our soil is not as nutrient dense as it used to be. Even the organic soil is not as nutrient dense as it used to be unless you are farming small on land that has never been used for farming, right? And then you got a
Mhm.
shot there.
Right?
Additionally, the changes in the atmosphere, the increase in carbon in the atmosphere causes, this is so fascinating to me. I actually I will give you the link to this article that I wrote for Mother Earth Living magazine on the impact that climate change is having on nutrient density. But the increase in carbon in the atmosphere is causing our grains to contain less minerals and more carbohydrate. And this is because carbohydrate is a carbon-based molecule, and
Mhm.
there's more carbon in the atmosphere. And so the grain is growing actually more carbohydrate rich, more starch rich than carbohydrate 50 and 70 years ago. And
Mhm.
it's also because independently of the soil, because of the extra carbon in the atmosphere, there's less iron, less magnesium, and less zinc in our whole grains than there was before. And I mean, this is doubly devastating because for cultures that still struggle to consume enough calories and enough, trace minerals, they're even worse off because the grains that they're depending on to give them the little bit of amount of iron or magnesium that they're getting from the diet has these even less now. And then from our industrialized nations, your rice is ricier than your grandparents' rice, right? Those starches, we have so much diabetes in the US and in the UK and Australia and Mexico, and our grains are more starch rich than they were 50, 70 years ago. And this is independent of soil. This is independent of, um, the genetic engineering and the alterations that we've done for our crops to enhance effects that we're wanting from them. It is simply due to the change in the atmosphere. So all of that means that even the whole foods that we're consuming now are not as nutrient dense as what our grandparents have. So it's a bit more of a struggle. And even as I say that, I can attest, and this is the hill I will die on, I can attest that when you make that transition to more vegetables, more fruits, more unprocessed, unadulterated foods, the nutrients that are still there will freaking change your life.
Mhm.
I, without a doubt, in
Question.
ways that you cannot fathom, and in ways that you may not even realize are happening because you wouldn't even think that eating more vegetables might reduce your anxiety and depression, that eating more vegetables might cause the chronic injuries that you've been dealing with to spontaneously go away, that the chronic constipation you've had your entire life that is part of who you are, and I say that in quotes, right, was actually a longstanding magnesium deficiency that was never addressed because you weren't raised in a food supportive environment to give you sufficient magnesium. And so you've been, constipated your whole life when all you needed were some green vegetables, babe.
Oh my gosh. All right. So I did my first online foray was called a summit.
Mm,
It was called Eat Your Dirt. And when you're talking to gardeners or farmers about soil,
yeah.
dirt is a 4-letter word. And it's the
Oh,
thing that everybody that is in the regenerative world is trying to fix because we have depleted our soils across the globe
right.
horribly.
Yeah.
They have no life. And that's when soil becomes dirt,
Mm,
when things cannot grow in them. And I love that you're highlighting this because my gardener permaculturist brain is going,
yeah.
spread that all over the world and please, please, please do better. Right? This is why growing your food locally and purchasing from small farmers and organic farmers is the light when it comes to nutrient density. You're going to get better nutrients from these sources, hopefully, but we've still got this carbon issue.
We've still
We're
got the carbon
still,
issue. Yeah, but
and
you're spot on. The closest that the food that you consume is to where you live, the higher the likelihood that it was, pulled from the ground recently, which means that, that produce hasn't had as much time to sit on the shelf and degrade. So that's sort of like the thing that we want to aspire to. And that's not always realistic or feasible or reasonable for folks. My in some circles very unpopular opinion is that when the food that you want to eat is not local to you, is not in season, rather than getting it fresh from the grocery store, if you can find it frozen and that works and the method with which you want to prepare it, go for frozen. Because
Yes.
frozen food is grown often because of, I mean, this is actually in a twisted way, a benefit of how we produce food in our culture is that our farms are large enough that frozen foods are typically grown on a farm where it is plucked and blanched and frozen within 24 hours on site where it was grown or very close to it. And so it will retain more of the nutrients because it didn't get, put on a truck in Mexico and carted all the way to the United States to end up wherever you are, right? In
Mhm.
February. Don't eat fresh strawberries in February, folks. Just say no.
Please don't. Right? They came from far, far, far away.
And if we're going
And
to talk climate change and we're going to talk about respecting the planet, eating strawberries in February that came from Argentina or Peru or Mexico is not a sustainable choice. Our greatest greenhouse gas emissions do not come from cow burps. They come from transportation and industry.
thank you.
I mean, that's the Environmental Protection Agency's data, not mine. If you go to the EPA website and you look at their most current data from 2020, you'll see the entire American agricultural industry, the entire industry, that's our rice, our soy, our corn, our meat, our dairy, only accounts for 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions for our country. If we were to give up meat entirely, there were actually some researchers who took a look at that question. It was like, okay, let's say America gets on board and agrees with one thing. And that thing is to go meatless.
We weren't designed that way.
Let's
First off,
but let's do some statistical modeling and see how much would that reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And the answer that they came up with was 2.5%.
not enough.
And I love that they said this. This totally fits into my bias, but they also stated that this 2.5% benefit comes at significant risk of nutrient deficiencies due to the lack of nutrients otherwise, that are not otherwise found in as great abundance in plant-based foods.
Yeah.
So we're barking up the wrong tree.
Mhm.
We're mooing up the wrong cow. I don't know how to what's the best way
Yes.
to say it here?
Yes. Don't get rid of the cows. They're needed. The chicken, the eat more chicken sign from Chick-fil-A, where the
Yeah.
cow's writing it.
Yes,
Yeah, don't
yes.
listen to that.
Aside from our vegetables, our most nutrient dense sources of food are our animal proteins, specifically seafood and organ meats, which again, I'm like,
A lot of people go, "Oh,
what are you to know?
anyway,
Oh, who is this woman you've brought on here, Amanda?
very intelligent and nutrient dense woman."
When we look at, when we look at, for those of us who are of a certain age, right? Those who are Gen X, young boomers, we remember our grandparents doing crazy stuff like taking cod liver oil or eating liver once a week with onions or chewing on the gristle and the bone of chickens, right? They were getting nutrients we're not getting now because they were eating the way that we have always eaten, that we have forgotten about in more recent generations. And so we have this compounding effect, that yes, our food is very processed and nasty, But we also have this compounding effect of moving so far, running towards science, the shininess and the newness and the glamour of science, and so far away from our history and remembering our history, that there are multiple different things at play that have made us physiologically weaker and more susceptible to disease than our grandparents and great grandparents were. And this is why people are developing diabetes now at even younger ages, and why my son's generation is not expected to outlive my generation, because we have this compounding impact of nutrient depletion from generation to generation.
Yeah. But still, eating healthy means eating fruits, vegetables, and meats. And again, staying on the perimeter of your grocery store and don't go to the center.
Yeah.
That's the key.
And there are ways to do it that are affordable. And I definitely don't want anyone to listen to this podcast and take away the idea that it has to be local and organic to count. Yes, that is optimal. But honestly, I just want people to eat a vegetable. At this point, with where we are at nationally, I don't care if it's frozen. I don't care if it's, a deep fried Brussels sprout. God bless you. If that's how you want to eat your green veggies, I am standing at the side of your table applauding, because you're eating a green vegetable and it just doesn't happen anymore.
Oh, it's not horrible.
And your body will take what it needs from a deep fried Brussels sprout. It's amazing that way. We cannot let perfection be the enemy of good enough. And sometimes good enough has to be where we start.
I completely agree. I also think that people should be going to grocery stores where they label their food with what country it came from, right? So that they can educate themselves.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this particular apple came from Peru. Do I really want to go there? Do I really want to support that? Same for meats.
Mm-hmm.
Where did your meat come from? Was it freshwater? Was it on a farm? Knowing those kinds of things when it comes to your meat is also important. And learning more about the foods that you're putting in your body.
Yeah.
Whether it's the processed foods or the foods that are on the perimeter of the grocery store.
This is part of the reason also why I think we are in the situation we are in nutritionally, is because we are not food educated. Food is treated as an afterthought. My body's making this uncomfortable sensation. I need to take care of it so I can go on and be productive, right? Food is a means to an end. And when you go to other cultures and you see their perspective of food is so radically different. I have a friend who has moved this year. She's just moved to Paris, and her husband is studying at Le Cordon Bleu. And they will, yeah, I know, it's pretty exciting.
Yes.
Exactly. And she told me how, like, they'll go to a cheese shop or something like this and be like, I'd like this. Oh, are you going to have this tonight? Or how are you going to prepare this? And she'll, say something in French, and they will say, no, you can't do that. Not with this. This cheese needs to be served in this way. This meat needs to be prepared in this way. And if you they will make sure how to respect the food and prepare it in a way that makes it the most enjoyable for you and reflects highly upon them as the one who provided it to you, right?
Of course.
But they have a very, very different relationship. And then in Latin countries and in the Mediterranean, right? Well, we have this thing called, in sobremesa in Spanish, which is literally means around the table. And this can happen, after coffee, after a meal, you sit, because they eat communally still. They don't generally eat by themselves. They eat with coworkers at lunchtime, and lunch is like an hour and a half long. They eat with families regularly. And then there's this time after the meal is done where you are conversing around the table, or in Italy and in Spain as well. And in the evening meal, you get up and you walk around with your family, just kind of meander through the town, talking and, chatting. And it's all part of food is not a means to an end. Food is an opportunity for community and nourishment. And that's something that we're so far removed from in the United States, and we suffer so deeply because of it, and we don't realize the degree to which we suffer because of it.
We have to have rules around, like, your family should eat at the table together once a week at least, or optimally at dinner time. And it's like, wow, that was a staple 50, 70 years ago.
It
And
was,
and
and now
now
it
we
feels like a chore to put on the to-do list,
exactly.
which
Exactly.
defeats, like, the heart and the soul of it, right? It isn't. And to be fair, it may feel like that at first, and that's very understandable, because it's gonna require some adjustments if you decide to make that commitment for you and your family.
Yeah.
But over time, it stops feeling that way. Just when you
Mhm.
start your training season, it feels like crap, and you wonder, like, "Oh my gosh, am I ever gonna actually be fit again?" Or if you're coming back from an injury, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
then
Your whole body's just like, I'm gonna slog through this. I know I'll get through this. I've been here before.
right, right. But you still have to tell yourself that, "I'm going to get through this. I've been here before," because it doesn't if you just went on how it felt in that moment when you're just starting, you'd never get anywhere.
Yep. Same for the dinner table.
Amen.
Exactly
Same
the
for the
same.
dinner
And cooking,
and cooking.
bringing
And
it back to
cooking.
that.
Everybody cooks like crap when they first start. It's okay.
Yes. It's like sports. It's a skill you got to build. It's not like it's just going to happen.
Yeah.
And bam, now you're a pro athlete. That's not how it works.
Does not get passed down through genetics most of the time.
Thank God, because my mom was a horrible cook.
What if it skips generations?
That would be nice. Oh, no, no, no. I want my daughter to be able to cook.
There we go.
No skipping.
No skipping.
Aimee, you're an endurance sport athlete. We haven't even touched on
I
this
know.
yet.
I know.
I want to touch on it briefly. What do you do? What sport?
I am a runner. I'm an endurance runner. I came to running as a teenager because it was actually very impulsive. I had horrific seasonal affective disorder in the state of Alaska, where I grew up,
Mhm. Okay.
and had a very strong compulsion to run. And so I did it to shake the agitation in my body, to get rid of it.
Mhm.
And, it was my Prozac before Prozac was a thing. And it
Yeah.
worked better than Prozac when Prozac was a thing.
Yeah. And it still does.
And it still does. And, now as an adult, it's my meditation, it's my quiet time, it's my time where I get to be me, without any other demands, any other obligations, right? It's my me time. And it's really still one of the only things that takes the all of the different layers of thoughts going on in my head at one time and drops it down to just 2 or 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. That's sport. All sports that I play are power sports, and they do that for me too.
Mhm.
Now all I've got to think about is what I'm doing, and then maybe one or two other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nice. Oh, all right, Aimee. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
On the interwebs, I can be found in a couple of places. I am at vibrancenutrition.com. That's VIBRANCE. And you can also find me on Instagram by that handle, as well as Facebook. And I have my own podcast as well called Blasphemous Nutrition. I don't discuss sports nutrition very much there. It's more mindset, metabolic health, chronic disease, and nutrient density, which I absolutely love, but I can also be found there.
Excellent. I plan on having you back because we did not talk about
Everything we planned on.
Right? All the fun chronic conditions that endurance athletes can go through. So you're coming back for that one. So we can talk about that, as well as nutrition and how it supports the body to get through those chronic conditions. So you guys look for Aimee again on Spirit of an Athlete next year. So excited to have her back.
I'm thrilled to come back. Thanks for the invitation, Amanda.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming today and sharing with us all of the great information that we talked about, from sit at the table and eat your dinner with your family, make it a communal thing, to nutrient density and how we can do better, buy better foods, to, just eat the damn vegetables.
And whatever way you can get them in.
Exactly. If you want to fry them, fry them.
Actually, on that note, I'll also include for your listeners, I'll also include a free handout or free guide on how to get 5 servings of produce a day in 15 minutes or less. No smoothies, no salads, no smoothies or salads. Those are everywhere. You all already know how to do that. No, different ways, 5 ways to 5 a day in 15 minutes or less. So I'll make sure to get that to you so you can throw it in the show notes.
Thank you. Absolutely. Yes, I'm looking forward to that because my brain immediately said shakes and salads and soup. Soup was the other one. Yeah. Okay. Aimee, thank you again.
My pleasure, Amanda. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Spirit of an Athlete podcast. If you're struggling with your own gut issues and want more direction, you can get an initial body scan from Amanda at bodywhisperhealing.com. In 20 minutes, you can find out what's wrong, get clarity, map the path forward, and get on track to get back in your game. If this episode hits the spot, please let us know by rating, reviewing, and sharing it with a friend. Subscribe now to hear more inspiring stories from other female college athletes who overcame their health issues. Want more, Amanda? Get inspired by finding more at bodywhisperhealing.com.